you want to apply for a UK work visa and you've got your COS, you've got all the required documents, you just don't know where to begin, this video is for you. This is a continuation of a previous video I had uploaded where I talked in detail about the instructions to follow when applying for a UK work visa. Do well to check it out as they are very valuable tips to help you prepare well for your UK work visa application and to know what you need to avoid. We'll be going to the gov.uk website. When it opens, you can search for the skilled worker visa and click on it. I've given full details about all the instructions here, so we'll be going straight to apply now. Then I can take you step by step from start to finish on all you need to do. I talked about every single one of these in the previous video which I uploaded. Do well to check it out because it has got loads of valuable tips you will find very helpful. So we're just going to go straight to click on apply because we don't have to go over this in this video. For the purpose of this video, I'll be assuming you're applying from outside the UK, so the link we'll be using will be for those applying from outside the UK. I have another video where I talked about those who will be applying from within the UK. Do well to check that out if that is your own situation. Let's just have a quick rundown of the instructions there. The major two things needed from you in this application is proving your identity and providing supporting documents. So once you submitted this application form I'm going to show you, the next thing you will do is upload all the necessary documents to show that you are eligible for this visa, and you have to prove your identity. Because you're outside the UK, you have to go to a biometric center to do that. But for those within the UK, they can use the UK immigration ID check. Now let's just go straight and start the application. I believe you already have your COS before the start of this application. So for the clients, I'll be working with their COS. This is their details. We'll be using every single information on this COS to fill in the application form on the government website. Without this COS certificate, you can't even start. There is nothing you can even fill in there. Now let's get started. First question, where are you planning to live? So you have to choose which of the two locations you are going to. The employer that employed you, wherever their location is, that is where you are going. For my clients, it's England. And then the next question, do you have a current EU, EEA or Swiss passport? My client is no. If your own case is yes, you can say yes. If not, you say no. Next question, you need to select the country you'll be doing your biometrics. For my client, he is in Nigeria, so I'll be selecting Nigeria. And this is the point where, if for instance your country does not have a biometric center and you select your country, they'll tell you there is no biometric center. And then they'll give you the nearest country you can go to for your biometrics. But Nigeria has a biometric center, so I'll be going ahead with that. And because I already know the states in Nigeria that have biometric center, I will just select that I have identified the location where I'll be going. If not, I can say I want to choose a different location. This is just more instructions for you. They're just trying to let you know that if you have a family, this particular application is for you alone, you who is the main applicant. Then the rest of your family members, like your wife, your kids, they will be called dependents, and you have to fill in separate application forms for them. If you're applying for a skilled worker visa, it means you have been offered a skilled job in the UK. It means you'll be working for an approved UK employer. Your job meets the minimum salary requirements. And also, you can read, write, speak, and understand English. Once your sponsor has confirmed you are eligible for the health and care visa, then you have the opportunity to confirm this in your application. All this information are in the COS form. So it's just a reminder that you need to have your COS document with you before you start the application, because everything you need is in there. And without it, the application is not going anywhere. Now, for how to apply, you need to fill the application form, which we are doing right now, and it has to be in English. You have to pay the visa fee online, and you have to go for a biometrics in the application center which you will choose, and you have to pay the IHS fee. For those in the health and care visa, they don't pay IHS fee, but for every other person on every other job like IT, catering, construction, they are definitely going to pay IHS. So we'll begin properly now. So first things first, you put in your email address. Please use an email address that is valid, because every single correspondence you need would be sent to this email address. Then you can select your password. This email and password will also be what you will log into the portal with whenever you want to come back to your application. Next. Now the next question, which is like the very first reason why you need to have your COS document at hand. They'll ask you for your COS number, and this is something you can only get from the COS document. So I'll say yes because my client has his own, then I'll fill his own in. Just going to copy and paste this. So we'll be selecting the COS certificate number, this one, and then we'll be pasting it in here. Then we'll go to the next question. Because the COS number is valid, it went through. But if the COS number is invalid, you get an error message there. It's not going to go through. There are so many cases of people with invalid COS number, and this is where their issues begin. Next question is your work start date. This information is also in the COS document. So I'm just going to copy my client's own. And next question is when is the end date? This information is also in the COS document. Next question. They want to know whose email address you have. I'll fill in it's me because I want the correspondence to come to me. They want to know if you have an additional email address. This is not really compulsory, so I'll just say no and move on. Now the phone number. This is going to be your phone number, the one they can reach you with. Keep in mind that if you stay for a while without any activity on the application form, it will sign you out. That is usually 25 minutes. Then after the 25 minutes, once it signs you out, you can log back in using the email and the password we created in the beginning, if you remember. The good thing with this is even when you get signed out, if you log back in, it will bring you right back to where you stopped. Not like you go and start all over again. So I'm going to log back in and then show you where we stopped. So they stopped at the telephone number. Now they'll ask you for a telephone number. At this point, I'll begin to fill dummy details just for the purpose of showing you how to fill the form. When I'm done, I'll come back and make all the necessary changes before submitting. So I'll just fill in dummy details. Then this you can select if the phone number is for use while the person is in the UK or out of the UK. So for this form, I'll say out of the UK because you're applying from outside the UK, so you most likely don't have a UK number. Then I'll select that it's the mobile number and I'll go to the next page. So next they'll ask you if you have any other telephone numbers. There is no need because one number is enough for them to reach you. Next question. Are we able to contact you by this phone number? You said yes. You can choose for them to contact you by phone call and text message. It's good you select both options so that if they try calling you, your number is not going through or something like that, they'll leave you a text message. It's better than picking only one of the other options and then they're not able to reach you at the time when they need you. So I'll go to the next question. Here is where you begin to fill in your own personal details. Your first name, I'm going to put dummy details. And then last name, this is family name. For females, when you get married and you change your surname, whatever name you are filling in here is the same name with what you have on your international passport. So if it's your previous surname that's on your international passport, use it for this particular place. But if it is your new surname that is there, use it. There is also an option for you to fill in any other surname you may have. For females, this is for where you fill in any other surname you may have. So you will say yes, you have additional names. Then you go ahead and fill in your other names. This place is also a good place to fill in your middle name if you do. Remember, they asked for only the first name in the first part. So here you fill in your middle name and your second surname if you have a previous surname and a new surname. I'll just fill in dummy details here. Order last two. Next question. If you have any other names again apart from these 4 names you've provided, if you don't, you say no. If you do, you say yes and add it. There are still people who have more names. This is a place for you to fill in every single name you have. So there is none for my client. I'll say no and move on. So sex and relationship, my client is a male and he is married, so I'm going to put married. If you're single, you fill in single. If you have a partner but you're not legally married, you can say unmarried partner. If you're divorced or dissolved partnership, select. If you're separated, the same thing. If you're widow or you're a surviving civil partner, the same thing you select. This particular aspect is actually very important, even though it looks very small, because whatever you fill in here, if you have family, it will affect how their own application will be. For instance, if you say you are married legally married, you need to have documents that show that you're married, pictures and everything. If you're divorced, you need to have papers that show you are divorced. If you're separated, you need to have anything that can back up your application. Reason being, if your partner wants to apply, make their own application, and you don't have all these necessary documents, theirs will not go through, because it's these documents that will prove that yes, they are linked to you one way or another. For my client, he's married. Next question, the client's address, that is you. You can fill in your address, the town, the state, if any, the postcode, if any, none, and then the country. So when they ask you, is this address also your correspondence address, which means is this the same place you want them to send any information like returning your passport when they've approved the visa? This is the place you say yes or no. If you want them to send your passport to another address, you go ahead and say no. But if you want them to send it to the same address, you say yes, and then move on to the next question. So next question, they want to know where you've lived in. Now we're going to select the number of years you've lived in the current place you're living. So for my client, he has stayed there for 7 years and he's renting it. So if you own the house you're living in, you can say you own it. If you rent it, you can say you rent it. And if you are maybe living with people, you can say other and fill in the necessary details. So for this place, we'll be putting in the details on the person's international passport. So I'm going to fill in dummy details. And then the issuing authority is NGA. All this information here you will find on your passport. This is the issued date of the passport, and this is going to be the expiry date. I'll be using dummy details for the sake of this 2026. So next question, if the person has a valid identity card, national ID card. My client has that, so I'm going to fill in yes and then fill in his identity number. If you don't have that, you can go ahead and skip, say no. But mine has its authority is also NGA and there is no issue date on it, so we'll skip that. So now you start talking about your nationality. In this case, my client is a Nigerian. He's also born in Nigeria. He's born in Enugu. And his date of birth, I'll just fill in anything here. Whatever you're filling here, please ensure it is correct, because if there's any error anywhere and you submit the application with that error, you've already started giving yourself question mark. You don't want that. So ensure you double check your answers before submitting. In fact, give it to somebody else to help you check again before submitting. So next question, if you have any other nationalities, no for my clients. If you do, say yes. So here is what language you prefer, English. Now, this is for English proficiency test. So they want to know if you've passed the English language test. So in this case, we'll say yes because my client has written the IELTS and passed it. This place, they want to know if you've provided your IELTS somewhere else outside this application. This is mostly for those who have made an application to the UK before. So in my client's case, he has not. So he has not provided it anywhere. I will say no, so that we'll be given the option to provide it here. So here it's they want to know if you have any English qualification from a UK school. In my client's case, he doesn't. So we'll say no. If you do, you say yes. This one is if you have a degree that has been taught in English. If you do have a degree that you've been taught in English, you go ahead and say yes. If not, you say no. And in my client's case, he has and he was taught in Nigeria. Next question, will proof of your degree, what you will be showing. My client has a degree certificate, so we'll be able to show degree certificates. If yours is an official transcript or a letter from your school, still good. In this case, mine is a degree, so we'll be using that. And obviously your degree certificate has to show your name, the university, the qualification and the date. Next question is if you have a PhD in the job you're applying for. In my client's case, no. If yours is yes, you can go ahead and say yes. Now, because my client said he's married, we need to fill in the details of his wife. So we're going to use the wife's details here. Let's say wife last, her date of birth would be Then the wife's nationality, also a Nigerian. And then, do they currently live with you? Yes. Would they be traveling with you to the UK? No, because my client will be traveling first and then the wife will come later. If in your own case you would be traveling together with your partner, you say yes. And if they ask you if they currently live with you, if they live with you, you say yes. If they don't live with you, you say no. But in most cases, it's better you are both living together or having something to do living together, because there will be a point where if you're not living together, they want you to prove that this person is really your partner and not just that you both just met somewhere and you're trying to come together to travel to the UK. So you have to have something to be able to show you both are living together. So for my own clients, they're living together, so I'll put yes and then go to the next question. So here they just want to know the details of your parents. For my client, we'll do the mother's name and then her date of birth. She's a Nigerian. And then if they want to know her nationality, she has always been a Nigerian, so yes. So next person, we'll do the father. If you don't know details of your own parents, you can click this option and then go through the instructions there and do as you're told. But when you have the details of your parents, whether you know their correct date of birth or not, just fill in their names correctly and then the date of birth you remember. His dad has always been a Nigerian. And we'll go to the next question. If you have any family who live in the UK, this is if you do. If you don't have any family living in the UK, just say no. Because if you do and you say yes, you have to fill in details of the family. It could be your brother, your sister, your parents, or anybody at all. Whoever it is, you can say yes or no. My clients does not have, so I'll say no. But if you have, you say yes and you fill in their name, their address, and their passport number. For this question, they want to know where you'll be stayed in the UK. If you know where you're going, maybe a hotel or your family's place, you say yes. If you don't know where you're going, you say no. Obviously, I know you know where you're going, so you say yes and then fill in address of the place you are going to. I'll just fill in dummy address and then move on. So they want to know if there's any other place you'll be staying in the UK apart from the one you filled in the previous question. If there is, you say yes. If there is not, you say no. For my clients, no. So next question, they would like to know if you've traveled to the UK in the past 10 years. The reason for this question is they want to know if there was any issue you ran into in the previous visit you had to the UK. Maybe you overstayed or you did something wrong, you accessed public funds. That's the purpose of this question. So in my client's case is no, but if you have, you say yes and then fill in the appropriate answers. Have you been issued a UK visa in the past 10 years? You can say yes if you have, you can say no if you haven't. Even if you have been issued and you did not travel in, you still say yes. So my client is no. Now they want to know if you've traveled to Australia, Canada, New Zealand, USA, Switzerland, or the European Economic Area. If you have, you say yes. You select number of times, but if you've not, you just say 0. My client has not, so I'm going to say 0. Then they also want to know if you've traveled to any other place apart from these countries that were previously mentioned in the last 10 years. So if you have, you say yes. If you have not, you say no. The reason for this question is they just want to know if you have any issues in any of the countries you've visited in the last 10 years. So don't know if you have a very recent issue in any country you've been to. This one is date you plan to travel in the UK. If you've not bought a flight ticket, this date can be tentative. It mustn't be the exact date you must travel in. It's good to calculate these days properly before you fill it in. For instance, if today's date is 10th of January, you are going to fill in a month's gap. Then select any date after a month's gap because it's expected for your visa application to take 2 weeks to come out, and then the remaining 2 weeks, if there's any delay, the remaining 2 weeks will cover. So you're going to have 1 month gap before you select date of travel. So here they would like to know if you've been refused any visa before to UK or any other country, if you've been refused entry, if you have been refused permission to stay if you've been refused asylum, if you've been deported, you've been removed, or you've been required to leave, or worse, you've been excluded or banned from entry. All these things are important because they want to know what your previous record is like. So even if you've made a previous visa and you got refused, it doesn't matter what the refusal is about. If it's something that can be worked around, just fill in yes and then give them the reason. But if you've not have any visa like that, you can just say no and move ahead. So next question, they want to know if you've ever breached any of the UK immigration law. In my client's case, he has never entered the UK illegally or done anything to breach the law, so no. Then you move on to the next question. They want to also know if you have any criminal conviction or if you have any general conviction or penalties, either in the UK or any other country. So you go through this and see if there's anyone you fall into. If there is none, just go ahead and say no, I've never had any of this and move on. It's good you actually state the truth here because when they request for your criminal record certificates and they see that you have something there and you said no here, you're usually giving yourself a red flag. So it's better you are being truthful here. So next question, they want to know if you've participated in any war crime. In my client's case, no. And then we'll go to the next question. Also, if you've participated in any terrorist activities, if you've followed any of the organizations or shared any terrorist views, no. Then next question, if you've also participated in extremist organizations or shared their views, you read through. If you've ever participated in such, it's good you say yes, because if they find out on their own, it's not good on you. So next question is, if you've been a person of good character, I don't know if you've participated in anything that will place you in a negative light. In my client's case, no. You can fill in yes or no depending on what your own record is. They want to also know what your employment history is like. If you've been in the armed forces, if you've been in the government, if you've been in any security organization, media. If you've not, just say I've not worked in any of this and move on. If you have, fill in the details appropriately and then submit. So here they want to have your sponsorship license exactly as it is on your COS form. So I'm going to go to my client's COS form to copy the sponsor's license and paste. The sponsor license is usually at the very beginning of the form. So I'm going to paste this in here and click save and continue. Because it's a correct license, that's why it went through. If the license number is not correct, I would not be able to go past that section. They would want to know if your sponsor certifies maintenance. This is a good part because this will determine if you are going to provide proof of funds. This proof of funds case is always a serious thing for most applicants. If your sponsor agrees they will certify your maintenance, you are not expected to provide any proof of funds. But if they say no, they are not certifying your maintenance, you have to provide your own proof of fund. In my client's case, the sponsor said yes, which is this. You will find this in the COS form. My client is not going to be needing proof of funds. So I'll say yes and then go to the next page. So here they want to know what's the title of the job you're coming to do in the UK. You will also find this information in your COS form. I'll copy that from my client and then paste it here. The salary you'll be paid per year is also on the form, on the last page of the form. I'll also copy that and paste. And then go to the next question. Here they want to know if you have any overseas criminal record checks, which is your police clearance, and they will want to know if you'll be providing that. In most cases, this answer is just yes, because almost everybody is expected to provide a criminal record if they are going to the UK to work. So I'm going to click save and next question. It says, is your employment requiring overseas criminal check? This is also a yes, because most of the employment requires you to check your criminal record from your own country before coming. So this is yes, and that is why you also need to be sure you have your police clearance done for this application. So here they want to know how many countries you've visited and stayed for like 12 months consecutively in the last 10 years. So if you've only been in the current country you are in the last 10 years for 12 months, you go ahead and select it. And then if you have been in more than one, you also fill that in. They want to know if you can provide the criminal record certificate for this country you've been in. For my client, it's a yes, because his police clearance has been done and is down. So you have to also do the same, whichever country you'll be going from. So this is if you have any other country apart from the first one you filled in the previous question, For my clients, it's no. But for you, if you have any, please say yes. So this is for those in the health and care visa. Your COS will show you that. If you're not sure, you can always ask your employer. So for my client's case, it's a yes, and then we'll go to the next question. You have to be sure you're also eligible for the health and care visa. If not, your visa may be rejected. So we'll go to the next question. Here they want to know what is the SOC, the code for your COS. This is also in the COS form. You go there and copy it and then paste it in there. So once you confirm that the code is correct, you can move on to the next question. If it's not correct, you say no and then go back and change it. So they want to know if you're applying as a midwife or nurse. If it's yes, you say yes. If it's no, you say no and you move on. If your job is on the immigration salary list, this you can confirm from your employer. In most cases, it is a yes. If you're not sure, confirm from your employer. This salary list is mostly for jobs under the shortage list. Like care work is under the shortage list. You can see that here. Most of the jobs that needs more workers are under the salary list. So if you're not sure, you can confirm, but in most of the cases, it's a yes. So go to the next question. They want to know if you need permission from the ATS, which is a no in most of the cases, but in your own case, if it's a yes, you say yes. Next question. If there's any additional information about your application, if you feel that there is something that you've not been asked, because this is the end of the application that you're filling, every other thing after this is the documents and the rest. If there's anything you feel they didn't ask you or anything you feel you want to clarify, this is the part where you do that. If there is none, just click save and continue and move on to the next place. So for the next question, they've given you a summary of everything you have filled in. You will see everything step by step, all the answers you filled into all the questions they asked you. This is where you find it. If you go through every single one of them and there's something you need to edit, you can always click on the change button next to the question and then go back and edit it and come back. Most times I always ask people to download this part of the application, send it to people to help them go through it and see if there's any error. If there's any error, do well to edit it. If not, you can go ahead. If you want to download your application, let me show you where you can do that. You go back to the top, you click on your name here and then download PDF. This will show you your entire application form in PDF format, and you can send it to friends, family to help you check if there's any mistake. If there's nothing, you can go ahead and continue. This is the part where you select the documents you'll be submitting. The mandatory document you need to submit is your passport. You need to have that. Without that, there's no way you're going. And then other documents you need to submit is ethics letter. This is for those who have degree. You can always convert your degree. This can be done online. And when you're done converting, ethics will give you a confirmation. You also need to show your degree certificate, and you also need to show your criminal record certificates from Nigeria. You also need to do tuberculosis tests. Definitely you need to have your certificate for tuberculosis. That one is part of it. And in this part, because we selected as the sponsor is certifying maintenance, that is why they didn't ask for proof of fund. But if the sponsor was not certifying maintenance, they would have asked for proof of funds. And these documents they gave you, they just showed you all what you need to send compulsorily, especially if you have them, tick that you have them. After this, the other documents you can submit yourself to back up your application. So click next and then confirm that you've read and understood everything and you've accepted the conditions. After that, they will ask you your age. So in this case, my client is the applicant who is over 18. If it's for a child, you can always fill in any of the other 3 options. And then you go through it, confirm that you've read everything again, and press continue. Now, if you're required to pay IHS fee, you will see it here and then see the amount you'll be expected to pay. If you don't have need to pay IHS fee, it's not going to come out. But if your job role requires you to pay IHS fee, you will see this and then they will show you how much you need to pay. Then you can go ahead and pay now.
After paying your IHS fee, they will direct you to the page where you pay your visa fee. If your visa does not require paying IHS fee, they will take you straight to where you pay for the visa. Then once you've paid the visa fee, you will be redirected to the portal where you would now select a date for your biometrics.
Pick a date and then choose if you want to upload your documents yourself or if you want them to upload your documents for you when you get there. Once you've done that, you submitted your forms, you submitted your documents if you're the one submitting, you wait for your biometrics date, you take your passport, and if you can't, take all your documents in case it's still needed there, and then you're good to go. Once you get there, you do your biometrics, and then the next thing is to wait and hope for your visa to come out. After your biometrics, you can start praying for the best. While waiting for your visa, as long as you are confident about what you submitted, you can start rolling up your stay in your country because you'll be leaving very soon. And that will be all for this video. Thank you so much for watching up to this point. If you have any questions, any clarifications you need, or any suggestions or comments, do well to leave it in the comment section. Also like and share this video to those you know who would find it very useful, and also subscribe because I've got more videos like this coming your way.